When astronomers first logged the object known as 3I Atlas in July 2025, almost no one paid attention. It appeared to be just one more interstellar wanderer, drifting aimlessly between the stars, unusual because it was only the third of its kind ever detected, but still, at face value, nothing more than a cold, silent traveler passing through our solar system. Everything changed the moment the James Webb Space Telescope focused on it. Webb's instruments revealed something impossible. The object wasn't simply an icy fragment that warmed up under the sun. Something inside was glowing, not randomly, but in a steady pulsing rhythm, like a heartbeat. What began as a curiosity quickly spiraled into a phenomenon far stranger than anyone had imagined. The internal brightness surged far beyond projected models. Heat was being generated from its core, not its sunlit surface. And then came the radio pulses, repeating, precise, controlled. The final sign was the trajectory shift. 3I Atlas changed its course deliberately. This was no mindless rock. It was behaving with intention. Something inside it was active. And according to Webb's readings, alive. At first, the anomaly appeared as nothing more than a slightly brighter point of light in Webb's infrared feed. But as scientists examined the NIRSpec data, one abnormality refused to be dismissed. 3I Atlas didn't behave like any known interstellar object. Typical visitors brighten and dim unpredictably as they spin or shed material. But this object's luminosity held perfectly steady, unnervingly consistent. Even more unsettling, the glow originated from its center, as if a furnace were beating in timed intervals. Every 4 hours, the internal temperature rose and fell with mechanical precision. The pattern matched no natural phenomenon, not rotation, not solar wind, not geological activity. It was an internal source, unaffected by sunlight or orientation. Researchers publicly labeled it a thermal anomaly, but privately, many whispered a different term, heartbeat. With heat readings growing impossible to ignore, radio astronomers joined the investigation. Observatories from California to South Africa locked onto 3I Atlas. For days, the radio feed remained silent. Then, the Allen telescope array picked up a faint, narrowband pulse repeating every 4 hours, perfectly synchronized with the thermal surges detected by Webb. Skeptics insisted it could be interference or atmospheric noise, but the signal persisted for weeks. It adjusted subtly with changes in the solar wind, proving it was responsive and controlled. Multiple observatories confirmed it, eliminating the possibility of malfunction. Fourier analysis showed the pulse was carrying a stable carrier wave unlike anything produced naturally in space. Whatever was inside 3I Atlas wasn't just active, it was transmitting. When scientists sent a basic encoded reply containing prime numbers and elemental data, a response came 72 hours later. Weak and distorted, but to the second. Something out there had heard us, and answered. Then on August 18th, things got interesting. Webb recorded an abrupt flare from 3I Atlas, more than a 40% increase in brightness in less than an hour. No comet does that, even during major eruptions. Moments later, its orbital models revealed something far more outlandish, a deliberate shift in trajectory, pulling it closer to the inner solar system. European Space Agency teams recalculated the path repeatedly, trying to explain the maneuver by outgassing, but the math refused to cooperate. The force required was far beyond anything natural. And the timing was perfect, flare and trajectory change happening at the same time, like some kind of coordinated action. No known natural object deliberately changes course. If 3I Atlas was reacting to our signal or our presence or our observation, this was no longer an astronomical discovery. This was first contact. Whatever was controlling the object had just made its move. In the wake of this, spectroscopic analysis went into overdrive. A team from Johns Hopkins led by Carrie Liss analyzed every wavelength available from Webb. Their results multiplied the mystery. Alongside familiar comet materials, water ice, carbon compounds, frozen CO2, they detected absorption lines belonging to alloys used in advanced Earth-based manufacturing. Even more astonishing were signatures of theoretical quantum materials that had never existed outside research papers. These weren't random cosmic chemicals, they were engineered substances, designed with purposeful molecular structure. Specific reflections mimic metamaterials used to bend light, components of stealth technology. In other words, 3I Atlas wasn't merely active or responsive. It was built. And if its materials were synthetic and its signals deliberate, the question was no longer what it was. The question had become, who made it? And why has it come here? While labs analyzed its composition, researchers at Caltech conducted passive signal mapping across multiple wavelengths. What they found shook the scientific community. The 3I Atlas wasn't simply emitting radio waves, its whole structure behaved like a resonant chamber. A deep hum reverberated through the microwave spectrum every few hours, returning to Earth with unnatural consistency. Reversed, slowed, and matched to the sonogram patterns of human speech, the results were chilling. The resonance sounded like structured communication, not human, yet organized, as if the object was copying or learning linguistic patterns. Some specialists believed that it was acting to shape its responses in a way we could eventually understand. Others feared a darker interpretation. Perhaps the object wasn't speaking, perhaps something inside it was waking up. Soon after, new infrared imagery from Webb showed a moving internal structure. It wasn't random debris. It formed a spiral, dense, smooth, and rotating with unnatural stability. The spiral's movement remained fixed on its axis even while the object was spinning freely, suggesting advanced inertial control. More disturbingly, the spiral's proportions matched the golden ratio, repeated across multiple scales. The pattern appears in DNA, living organisms, and galaxies, but never in lifeless space rock. 3I Atlas contained a fractal blueprint associated with biological intelligence. If a golden spiral was rotating at its core, then the object wasn't just alive in an unfamiliar way, it might be aware. Less than a week later, Webb detected a sudden dip in brightness. Scientists first assumed a rotation shadow, but high-contrast imaging proved otherwise. A section of the object's surface had shifted, not cracked or broken, retracted. A smooth, rectangular panel slid open, revealing a dark cavity. No natural object displays mechanical movement. The opening was symmetrical, refined, deliberate. Inside, the cavity remained cold and stable, like a chamber built for a specific function. No one knew if it was a hatch, a sensor, or something far more concerning. What mattered was the direction. The opening faced Earth, fixed on our planet like an eye. Within the cavity, a second pulse emerged. Slower. Stronger. Another heartbeat. Something else inside 3I Atlas had awakened. Then NASA's Research Center found something that blurred the line between biology and technology. Webb spectral data showed compounds resembling synthetic biopolymers, not DNA, but engineered analogs capable of altering shape under solar radiation. These were programmable living materials, the kind Earth's labs have only just begun experimenting with. 3I Atlas seemed composed partly of biological circuitry. It was not a machine in any conventional sense, nor a living organism by Earth's definition. It was both. A hybrid entity, vessel, organism, message, and machine fused into one. If this thing was awakening, the real question was no longer what resides inside it but what happens when it emerges. Evidence soon suggested that 3I Atlas was no accidental visitor. Independent physicists studying gravitational lensing noticed something disturbing. The object's path had appeared before, mirrored in ancient alignments on Earth, Mars, and Europa. Megastructures like the pyramids, the Nazca lines, and unexplained Martian ridges all pointed toward the same vector 3I Atlas now followed. It was too precise to be chance. It implied that the object had passed through the solar system long ago and had been remembered, or recorded, by civilizations now vanished. If it had been here before, then this was not its arrival. It was its return. And the terrifying question remained, what happened the last time? In desperation, scientists performed a final, risky experiment using Canada's chime array. Rather than send a message, they transmitted a silence pulse, a technique utilized in archaeology to reveal hidden chambers through measurement of vacuum response. As the pulse struck 3I Atlas, every detectable frequency vanished for 6.3 seconds. Not reflected. Not scattered. Absorbed. On the 7th second, the object returned one return signal, an exact match to the 1977 WOW signal, long believed to be humanity's best candidate for extraterrestrial contact. Of course, that meant one of two things: either this object had captured that signal from across time and space, or it had been the source all along. 3I Atlas wasn't merely responding. It was replaying its own message. But for whom? Fear began spreading among those closest to the data. An off-record task force formed: astrophysicists, philosophers, linguists, and exobiologists. Their leaked findings hinted that the pulses from 3I Atlas encoded a recursive universal grammar, capable of communicating across not just biology but mathematics and consciousness. The patterns referenced themselves, implying the object wasn't only transmitting information. It was describing itself. A non-human consciousness, embedded not in circuits, but in geometry, resonance, and light. 3I Atlas wasn't just alive, it was self-aware. And more unsettling still, its behavior implied it had anticipated us. As if its journey was designed to trigger recognition not in humanity, but within itself, upon being observed. As if it had come home. Then, observatories worldwide began to detect subtle shifts in star positions, tiny distortions, but real. When triangulated, these converged near 3I Atlas. A University of Tokyo team concluded the object was bending spacetime around itself, not violently like a black hole, but gently, precisely, like an intentional manipulation of reality's fabric. Instead of consuming space, it shaped it, it wrote a message across the sky. And with each subtle shift of light, it became impossible to deny that something was emerging, something in response to which the universe itself seemed to answer. CERN researchers then ran the object's radio emissions through a quantum resonance model. The results formed perfect harmonic structures, something that only appears in musical instruments or atomic clocks. But during a session on September 2nd, the signal abruptly collapsed into chaos, then reassembled into a new harmonic pattern. It had changed. Not randomly. Reactively. As if the object sensed the analysis and altered its signal to obscure its internal nature. Scientists called this moment the veil. 3I Atlas was no longer just reacting to observation, it was deciding how much of itself we could see. Trajectory updates introduced another astonishing clue. Based on path and speed, the object had originated nearly 100 light-years away. Yet if it had traveled at its current velocity the whole time, the journey would have taken over 500,000 years. Unless it once moved faster. Far faster. With no signs of deceleration entering the solar system, the only remaining explanation was temporal. The team at MIT put forth a radical theory. 3I Atlas had used time dilation, bending time instead of breaking relativity, crossing distances in ways we barely understand. If true, it might have watched countless civilizations rise and fall, including ours. Then came the strangest discovery of all. A data sculpting artist, Lucia Fun, converted the object's internal resonance into 3D imagery. She had expected abstract shapes. Instead, she found a recurring geometrical form resembling a face not human, but symmetrical, intentional, repeated through multiple frequency layers. At first dismissed as pareidolia, further analysis confirmed it was encoded deliberately. 3I Atlas was transmitting an identity. A mind. A presence. Whatever lived within this object wanted to be recognized, and it was looking back. Webb's final deep scan focused on a region near the spiral core. Scientists found a pocket that didn't return any light. Not absorption containment, like a vault. Mapping its gravitational field revealed another impossibility. The internal mass distribution indicated the inside was far greater than the outside, like a spatial archive folded within a limited physical volume. 3I Atlas may contain memory, history, data, perhaps even remnants of civilizations. Yet the vault remained sealed, locked by geometry no human system could decode. Maybe it was never meant to open. Or perhaps we were always the key. For centuries, humanity had looked up and wondered if it was alone. Mankind sent signals out into the darkness. It waited for answers. But it never thought that something might already be on its way, waiting for it to notice. 3i Atlas did not just pass through the solar system, it arrived with purpose. It pulsed like a living heart. It responded like a consciousness. It changed course as if in recognition of eyes upon it. Now, as it floats past Mars, shining softly, sending back signals its watchers can barely make sense of, the question has changed. Not what is it, but what does it want? Is it a probe? A messenger? A relic? Or something far, far stranger, something alive in a way that redefines life itself? Maybe 3i Atlas wasn't meant to reach Earth. Maybe Earth was meant to reach it. And now that we've observed it, now that it has noticed us, one chilling truth remains. Once something in the dark becomes aware of you, you can never go back to being alone. If that thought unsettles you, you are not alone. What if humanity's biggest discovery wasn't a signal we sent, but a silent traveler that's always been headed our way? Subscribe for more updates as this story unfolds, and tell us in the comments, do you think 3i Atlas is alive, or is it something built, abandoned, and awakening?